Night settles over the rural tropics, not with silence, but with a low, breathing hum. In jungle villages and farm huts built from palm, mud, and scrap wood, the walls never fully seal. Warm air moves freely through cracks, thatch, and open eaves, carrying the scent of sweat, smoke, livestock, and fruit. To humans, this airflow brings relief from the heat. To assassin bugs, particularly the blood-feeding triatomines known as kissing bugs, it is a map. Every exhalation draws a line straight to living flesh. These insects are not reckless attackers. They are patient specialists, shaped by evolution to exploit sleep. During the day, they hide in the seams of walls, beneath mattresses, inside roofing bundles, or in the nests of rodents and birds that share human dwellings. Their flattened bodies slip into spaces no thicker than a coin. As darkness deepens and body heat pools beneath blankets, they emerge. Long antennae sweep the air, detecting carbon dioxide, heat gradients, and subtle chemical cues that distinguish mammal from reptile, human from dog. The face and arms are favored targets, not out of malice, but geometry. Exposed skin, rich blood supply, minimal hair, and frequent movement during sleep all converge there. The insect does not rush. It tests the surface with its feet, then lowers a narrow proboscis, engineered not for tearing, but for precision. The bite itself is almost nothing. Assassin bugs inject saliva loaded with anticoagulants and mild anesthetics, a biochemical trick refined across millions of years of blood feeding. Blood thins and flows, pain signals stay quiet. The insect feeds slowly, swelling as it draws nourishment from capillaries just beneath the skin. In healthy ecosystems, this behavior evolved on wild hosts, opossums, rodents, armadillos, animals that tolerate the parasite cycle without collapsing. Humans, however, are not part of that original equation. We are an accidental extension of the food web, one created when houses were built in the same ecological space as wild reservoirs. The true danger does not come from the bite itself, it waits beside it. As the bug feeds, it defecates, leaving behind microscopic droplets contaminated with Trypanosoma cruzi, a single-celled parasite adapted for long, slow conquest. The parasite does not enter through the proboscis. It relies on behavior, human behavior. A sleeping person stirs, scratches an itch, wipes sweat from the brow, rubs an eye. The feces are smeared into the wound or carried to the conjunctiva, where the parasite slips across mucous membranes and into the bloodstream. There is no dramatic moment of invasion, no alarm bells. The body's defenses barely notice the trespass. Once inside, T. cruzi begins a campaign measured not in days, but decades. It enters cells rather than remaining in the blood, hiding from immune surveillance by transforming into intracellular forms that replicate quietly. Muscle cells are favored targets, especially those that contract rhythmically and rarely renew. Heart muscle, smooth muscle of the digestive tract. Each infected cell becomes a factory, swelling with parasites until it ruptures, releasing them to infect neighboring tissue. The immune system responds in fragments, inflammation here, scarring there. Over time, the damage accumulates like corrosion on machinery that never shuts off. In the acute phase, which often passes unnoticed, there may be fever, swelling at the entry site, or a characteristic inflammation of the eyelid if parasites enter through the eye. In remote regions, these signs blend into the background noise of daily illness: mosquito-borne fevers, intestinal infections, exhaustion from labor. Then the symptoms fade. For years, sometimes decades, the infection enters a silent phase. People marry, work, raise children, migrate to cities. The parasite remains, dividing slowly, pushing the immune system into a low-grade chronic war that never resolves. Chronic Chagas disease is not dramatic in the way venom or trauma is dramatic. It is structural failure. In the heart, repeated cycles of infection and inflammation replace living muscle with scar tissue. Electrical pathways that once coordinated each heartbeat become distorted, leading to arrhythmias that strike without warning. The heart enlarges as it struggles to maintain output, its walls thinning, chambers ballooning under pressure. In the digestive system, nerve cells that regulate movement are destroyed. The esophagus stretches and weakens, trapping food. The colon expands into a massive dysfunctional reservoir. These are not quick deaths. They are slow degradations that turn basic biological processes, eating, walking, breathing, into daily negotiations with failing tissue. What makes this disease particularly cruel is its invisibility in time. A person in their 40s collapses from heart failure. The cause is traced back not to diet, not to lifestyle, but to an insect bite that occurred before they were old enough to remember it. In many endemic regions, Chagas is a disease of poverty, not because the parasite targets the poor, but because housing conditions allow the vector to persist. Cracked walls, thatched roofs, proximity to livestock and wild reservoirs all form a continuous habitat that triatomines exploit with ease. The insect does not need to adapt to humans. Humans adapt their dwellings into perfect extensions of the bug's ancestral environment. From an ecological perspective, this system is disturbingly efficient. Wild mammals maintain the parasite without significant harm. Assassin bugs move freely between hosts, sustaining their own populations while transmitting T. cruzi as a byproduct of feeding. Humans enter the cycle as dead ends, hosts that suffer severe pathology but contribute little to parasite spread. There is no evolutionary incentive for the parasite to become gentler in humans, because humans are not required for its survival. The disease persists not through aggression, but through indifference. Control efforts reveal just how deeply embedded this relationship is. Eliminating the bug from houses requires more than insecticide. It demands structural change, sealed walls, improved roofing, separation of sleeping spaces from animals. Blood screening has reduced transmission through transfusions and transplants, but vector-borne infection continues wherever ecology, poverty, and climate intersect. Even climate change plays a role, expanding the range of triatomine species into new regions, bringing an ancient parasite into contact with populations that have never faced it before. This is why the bite is so dangerous, not because it kills quickly, but because it does not. It leaves behind a living timer inside the body, one that ticks in muscle fibers and nerve clusters long after the night it entered has been forgotten. There is no dramatic wound to remember, no scar that tells a story. The damage unfolds internally, invisible, until function collapses and the past resurfaces as diagnosis. In the end, the assassin bug does not hunt humans with intent. It follows heat, carbon dioxide, and the ancient logic of survival. Yet the outcome is one of the most devastating examples of indirect predation in the natural world. A single feeding event can rewrite the trajectory of a human life, not through immediate injury, but through slow biological sabotage. This is not a bite that kills you in the dark. It is a bite that lets you live, while your organs, year by year, quietly decay from the inside. In the Amazon, mosquitoes are not an event, they are weather. They rise with dusk, thicken after rain, and fade only briefly in the heat of midday before returning in new waves. For loggers cutting trails through flooded forest, fishers standing motionless at river edges, or families living in stilted houses along blackwater tributaries, being bitten is as routine as breathing humid air. Arms, necks, ankles, exposed skin becomes a moving landscape of welts that are scratched, ignored, and scratched again. Nets tear, repellent runs out. The insects always outnumber the defenses. In this environment, a mosquito bite is never just a nuisance. It is an ecological transaction that happens thousands of times over a single human lifetime. Female mosquitoes feed on blood not out of cruelty, but necessity. Protein from blood is required to mature their eggs, and evolution has tuned them into exquisitely sensitive biological sensors. Heat gradients guide them in from meters away. Carbon dioxide plumes act like beacons. Subtle odors released in sweat, fatty acids, ammonia, lactic acid, help them choose one host over another. Some species specialize in humans, others in birds or mammals. But in the Amazon's dense overlap of wildlife and people, host switching is common. This flexibility is what makes mosquitoes such efficient bridges between ecosystems, moving pathogens from animal reservoirs into human bloodstreams without ever knowing they have done so. When a mosquito lands, its proboscis does not stab like a needle. It probes, delicately parting skin cells until it finds a capillary. Saliva flows first, carrying anticoagulants that keep blood from clotting and immune-modulating compounds that dampen the immediate inflammatory response. This is the moment pathogens exploit. In the case of malaria, microscopic parasites of the genus Plasmodium ride in with the saliva, injected directly into the bloodstream during feeding. The mosquito departs within seconds, leaving behind no obvious wound, just another itch among hundreds. The parasites do not stay in the blood. They vanish almost immediately, swept into the liver, where they invade hepatocytes and disappear from immune detection. For days, sometimes weeks, nothing seems wrong. Inside these liver cells, the parasites replicate explosively, transforming each infected cell into a factory packed with thousands of new forms. When the cell finally ruptures, the parasites spill back into circulation all at once. This is when malaria announces itself, not gradually, but rhythmically. Red blood cells become the next target. Parasites enter them, consume their contents, and multiply again, synchronized to rupture their hosts in waves. Each rupture releases debris and inflammatory molecules that trigger the immune system into overdrive. Fevers spike suddenly, often reaching dangerous temperatures. Chills follow as the body overshoots its own thermoregulation, shivering violently even in tropical heat. Sweating drenches clothing as the fever breaks, only for the cycle to repeat hours or days later. This rhythm, fever, chill, exhaustion, is not random. It is the biological clock of the parasite asserting itself inside the bloodstream. As red blood cells are destroyed faster than they can be replaced, anemia sets in. Oxygen delivery falters. Muscles weaken. The brain struggles to function under reduced supply. In children, this can impair development. In adults, it erodes endurance and strength. The spleen enlarges as it works overtime, filtering damaged cells from circulation. The liver, already stressed by infection, strains under the metabolic load. In severe cases, infected red blood cells stick to vessel walls, clogging microcirculation in the brain, lungs, and kidneys. This is how malaria kills, not through blood loss alone, but through systemic collapse driven by microscopic obstruction. In the Amazon, malaria is rarely a single encounter. People are bitten nightly, exposed repeatedly, and reinfected even after treatment. Partial immunity develops, blunting the worst symptoms, but never fully clearing the parasite threat. This creates a grinding condition where adults continue working through illness because survival demands it. Fevers are endured, not wrested away. Fishing trips proceed despite dizziness. Trees are felled with shaking hands. Over years, the cumulative toll becomes visible. Slowed movement, chronic fatigue, bodies that appear prematurely aged by relentless physiological stress. Malaria is not the only threat riding on mosquito wings. Dengue viruses circulate in both forest and urban cycles, transmitted by mosquitoes that thrive near human habitation. Unlike malaria, dengue attacks the vascular system and immune response directly. Capillaries become leaky, allowing plasma to seep into tissues. Platelet counts drop, impairing clotting. In severe cases, internal bleeding begins, gums, nose, gastrointestinal tract, turning the body's own vessels into sources of loss. Shock can follow as blood pressure collapses, organs starved not of oxygen alone, but of volume. Yellow fever, another mosquito-borne virus native to the region, targets the liver with brutal efficiency. Infected hepatocytes die, releasing enzymes and pigments into the blood. Jaundice stains skin and eyes yellow. Clotting factors produced by the liver fall, increasing bleeding risk. Kidneys fail under toxic load. Survivors often carry permanent damage, their livers scarred by an infection that lasted only days. Many do not survive at all. What unites these diseases is not just transmission, but strategy. Mosquitoes do not need to inject large doses. They deliver microscopic invaders optimized to multiply inside human bodies. The initial insult is trivial. The downstream effects are anything but. These pathogens exploit fundamental systems, blood, immune regulation, thermoregulation, to turn the body against itself. Fever, for example, is meant to slow pathogen growth. Yet in malaria it becomes a weapon of exhaustion, draining fluids and energy. Anemia reduces oxygen delivery, compounding fatigue and organ strain. Each system fails a little faster because it is trying to defend the whole. From an ecological standpoint, mosquitoes are not villains. They are among the most successful insects on Earth, precisely because they are adaptable. Some breed in tree holes, others in hoof prints, floodplains, or discarded containers. Their larvae filter microorganisms from water, linking aquatic and terrestrial food webs. Adults feed not only on blood, but on nectar, acting as pollinators for certain plants. Disease transmission is not their purpose. It is a side effect of feeding across species boundaries in environments where pathogens have evolved to exploit that behavior. For humans in the Amazon, however, this means that health is negotiated daily with insects measured in millimeters. The danger is not concentrated in one dramatic moment, but distributed across thousands of small interactions. Each bite removes a drop of blood, but more importantly, carries the risk of introducing organisms that will consume, destroy, or sabotage blood from the inside. Over time, repeated infections chip away at resilience. Years of life are not always lost in sudden deaths, but in diminished capacity, less strength to work, less endurance to recover, less reserve to survive the next infection. This is why mosquito-borne disease remains such a powerful force in shaping human lives in tropical forests. It dictates settlement patterns, work rhythms, and survival strategies. Nets are repaired obsessively. Smoke is used not for warmth, but deterrence. Seasonal movements follow mosquito abundance as much as fish migrations or fruiting cycles. The insects are woven into the daily calculus of risk in a way that rarely registers to outsiders. The itch fades, the bite mark disappears. But the exchange has already occurred. Blood has been taken, and sometimes something far more costly has been left behind. In the Amazon, mosquitoes do not simply annoy, they erode. They siphon strength cell by cell, fever by fever, infection by infection, turning tiny forgettable wounds into a slow subtraction of blood, vitality, and in too many cases, years of life itself. In the Amazon, danger does not always announce itself with color, sound, or scale. Sometimes it arrives low to the ground, fast-moving and ordinary-looking. Another shadow among leaf litter, another shape inside a boot, a banana bunch, a stack of firewood. The Brazilian wandering spider, Phonutria, does not build elaborate webs to warn you away. It hunts, it patrols. At night it moves across forest floors, plantation edges, storage sheds, and human dwellings, with the confidence of an animal that knows it does not need concealment to survive. When disturbed, it does not retreat first. It rears up, displays its fangs, and prepares to strike. This posture is not bluff. It is the prelude to one of the most medically significant spider bites on Earth. Most discussions of Phonutria venom focus on its effects on the nervous system. Searing pain, muscle spasms, sweating, cardiovascular instability. These systemic symptoms are real and well documented, but they are not the full story. For some victims, especially when the bite occurs on hands, feet, or other areas with limited soft tissue and dense vascular networks, the damage does not remain confined to nerves. It spreads outward and downward into skin, connective tissue, and muscle, leaving behind wounds that do not heal cleanly and consequences that do not fade when the venom clears. The bite itself is abrupt. Two fangs puncture the skin, injecting a complex cocktail of bioactive compounds evolved to immobilize prey quickly. These toxins disrupt ion channels in nerve and muscle cells, triggering massive neurotransmitter release and intense local pain almost immediately. Blood vessels dilate, permeability increases, and the immune system floods the area with inflammatory mediators. This response is meant to isolate and neutralize damage, but in confined anatomical spaces, fingers, toes, the dorsum of the foot, it can become destructive. Swelling builds rapidly, compressing surrounding tissue and reducing blood flow just when oxygen delivery is most critical. At the microscopic level, the venom does not simply irritate. Some components directly injure cell membranes, destabilizing them and initiating cell death. Others amplify inflammatory cascades, recruiting immune cells that release enzymes and reactive molecules meant to kill invaders, but capable of digesting healthy tissue when unchecked. In ideal circumstances, the body contains this reaction. In real environments, hot, humid, bacteria-rich, the wound rarely remains sterile. Soil, plant debris, and skin microbes gain entry through the puncture sites, turning venom injury into a gateway for infection. This is where the damage escalates. Reduced blood flow from swelling limits immune control. Bacteria proliferate. Tissue deprived of oxygen begins to die. The skin around the bite darkens, first bruised-looking, then dusky, then black as necrosis sets in. Blisters form as layers separate. Fluid leaks. Pain, initially sharp and electrical, becomes deep and relentless, unresponsive to simple analgesics. What began as 2 small punctures expands into a lesion measured in centimeters. Hospitals in endemic regions see these cases repeatedly, often days after the bite. The delay is not negligence. It is context. Many bites occur far from medical facilities, on farms, in forest camps, in villages accessible only by river. Victims wait, hoping the pain will subside. By the time they arrive, the wound is no longer a bite. It is a site of active tissue death. Surgeons are forced to act not against venom, which has long since dispersed, but against the consequences it left behind. Debridement becomes necessary. Dead tissue must be cut away to prevent infection from spreading deeper. This is not cosmetic trimming. It can mean removing skin, fat, fascia, sometimes muscle, until bleeding, viable tissue is exposed. In severe cases involving the foot or hand, tendons may be laid bare. Bones can be left temporarily uncovered. The goal is survival and function, not appearance. When enough tissue is lost, the body cannot close the wound on its own. Skin grafts are required, harvested from other parts of the body and transplanted to cover the defect. These interventions save lives and limbs, but they do not restore them completely. Scar tissue does not behave like original tissue. It lacks elasticity, sensitivity, and full strength. On joints, scars restrict movement. On soles of feet, they alter weight distribution, causing chronic pain with every step. On hands, they interfere with grip, fine motor control, and endurance. Nerve damage from the initial venom insult may persist beneath the scar, producing numbness, hypersensitivity, or neuropathic pain that flares unpredictably. The long-term consequences ripple outward. A laborer who cannot close a hand fully struggles to work. A farmer who cannot stand for long periods loses productivity. Chronic pain erodes sleep, concentration, and mental health. In regions without robust rehabilitation services, these disabilities become permanent, not because recovery is impossible, but because support never arrives. The spider is long gone, yet its impact continues to dictate daily life. From an evolutionary standpoint, none of this is intentional. Phonutria venom evolved to subdue insects and small vertebrates quickly, not to destroy human tissue. Necrosis in humans is collateral damage, a mismatch between venom chemistry and a body it was never meant to encounter. The spider's defensive behavior increases the likelihood of envenomation when humans intrude into its space. Agricultural expansion, storage of produce, and the habit of walking barefoot at night all amplify contact rates. The spider does not seek out people, but it does not flee them either, and that distinction matters. Ecologically, wandering spiders play a significant role as active predators, controlling insect populations and contributing to the balance of forest and plantation ecosystems. Their mobility allows them to exploit transient prey and avoid resource depletion. Their venom must act fast because they do not rely on webs to restrain victims. Speed and potency are their survival strategy. In the forest, this is elegant. In human skin, it is catastrophic. What makes these bites particularly insidious is the layered nature of harm. The initial pain demands attention, drawing focus to nerves and systemic symptoms. When those fade, victims expect recovery. Instead, the wound worsens. Skin breaks down, infection sets in. Treatment addresses each stage separately. Antivenom if available, antibiotics, surgery. But the damage compounds across time. By the time healing begins, the original insult has already reshaped tissue architecture. This is why the Brazilian wandering spider's bite is best understood not as a single event, but as a process. First comes the neurological storm, pain, autonomic disruption, fear, then the local collapse, swelling, ischemia, cell death. Finally, the aftermath, scars that tighten, nerves that misfire, limbs that never quite work the way they did before. Each phase hands off to the next, independent of the spider's presence. In the forest, the spider continues hunting, unaffected. In the human body, the consequences unfold slowly, often silently, until function is lost. This is not a bite that ends when the venom is metabolized. It is a bite that keeps taking, first your nerves, then your skin, and finally the effortless use of a hand or foot you once trusted without thinking. In the Amazon, danger is not always sharp or fast. Sometimes it is soft. Sometimes it looks like part of the tree. Along forest trails and village edges, trunks are often streaked with lichen, moss, vines, and clusters of life clinging to bark. To an untrained eye, a venomous caterpillar resting against a tree looks like debris, furred, motionless, harmless. Children lean against trunks while playing. Adults steady themselves while cutting branches or gathering fruit. A forearm brushes past what feels like rough leaves or soft spines. There is no bite, no sting in the way people expect, just contact. And then, minutes later, pain that does not behave like pain should. Certain Amazonian caterpillars, most notoriously species of the genus Lonomia, are among the most medically dangerous insects in the Western Hemisphere. They do not hunt, chase, or inject venom defensively like spiders or scorpions. Their danger lies in passive contact. Their bodies are covered in hollow, brittle spines, each one a microscopic syringe. When skin presses against them, the spines snap and embed, releasing venom directly into superficial blood vessels and lymphatic tissue. The caterpillar does not need to move. The forest itself delivers the toxin. The initial sensation is deceptively localized. A burning, stinging pain blooms where skin touched spines, often dismissed at first as irritation or a mild allergic reaction. There may be redness, swelling, or small puncture marks, but nothing dramatic. People wipe their arms, rinse with water, continue working. This is the most dangerous moment, when the body has already been poisoned, but the threat is still invisible. Inside the bloodstream, the venom begins dismantling a system humans rely on constantly and unconsciously: clotting. The toxins introduced by these caterpillars are not neurotoxins or cytotoxins in the traditional sense. They are enzymatic disruptors. Some directly activate clotting factors, causing them to be consumed rapidly. Others inhibit key steps in coagulation. The result is paradoxical and catastrophic. The body burns through its ability to form clots, then loses it entirely. Within hours, symptoms spread far beyond the site of contact. Bruises appear in places untouched by injury, dark patches blooming under the skin as blood leaks from vessels that can no longer seal themselves. Nosebleeds start without warning. Gums bleed. Urine turns pink, then red, as blood filters through damaged kidneys. Small cuts that would normally seal in seconds continue to ooze. In severe cases, blood accumulates internally, into muscles, joints, the lungs, or the brain, where it is far more dangerous and far harder to detect. This syndrome is not theoretical. Brazil has documented outbreaks tied to accidental contact with clusters of venomous caterpillars resting together on tree trunks. Entire families have been exposed at once. Children playing in yards, adults harvesting fruit or firewood. In some cases, victims did not even see the caterpillars. They only leaned, brushed, or slipped. Hospitals in affected regions have recorded patients arriving with widespread hemorrhaging and no obvious trauma. Imaging later reveals bleeding in the lungs, causing respiratory distress or intracranial hemorrhage leading to seizures, coma, or death. Children are especially vulnerable due to lower blood volume and immature physiological reserves. Even adults in good health can deteriorate rapidly once clotting factors are depleted. Treatment is not simple supportive care. Antivenom exists, developed specifically in Brazil after decades of fatal cases, but it must be administered early to be fully effective. Delay allows the venom-induced cascade to run its course. By the time bleeding becomes obvious, much of the damage is already in motion. Intensive care is often required, with transfusions of plasma, clotting factors, and close monitoring of organ function. Kidneys are frequent collateral victims. As blood breaks down and circulates improperly, renal tissue becomes clogged and inflamed. Temporary kidney failure is common even in survivors, forcing days or weeks of careful fluid management while the body slowly clears the toxin. For some, kidney damage persists long after discharge, a lingering reminder of an encounter that lasted seconds. From an ecological perspective, this venom system is astonishing. Caterpillars are slow, soft-bodied and vulnerable to birds, mammals and insects. Chemical defense is their primary survival strategy. By clustering together, they amplify the deterrent effect. One accidental brush becomes a memorable, sometimes lethal lesson for predators. This strategy works. Birds that survive contact avoid these caterpillars for life. Mammals learn quickly. The venom is not designed to kill humans. It is designed to make contact unbearably costly for anything large enough to crush them. Humans, again, are collateral participants in an evolutionary arms race that never considered us. Our skin is thin enough to accept the spines. Our blood chemistry is susceptible to the enzymatic sabotage. Our behavior, leaning, brushing, grabbing, completes the delivery mechanism perfectly. What makes these encounters particularly insidious is the delay between cause and effect. With snakes or spiders, the injury is obvious and immediate. With venomous caterpillars, people often cannot identify what happened at all. They arrive at clinics confused, bleeding and frightened, unable to connect their condition to a tree they leaned against earlier that day. In rural areas, this delay can be fatal. Even when victims survive, recovery is slow. The body must rebuild its clotting capacity, repair damaged vessels, clear breakdown products from circulation, and restore organ function. Fatigue lingers. Bruises take weeks to fade. Physical activity remains limited until blood chemistry stabilizes. In a region where daily labor is essential for survival, this downtime has real consequences. The broader lesson is not that caterpillars are malicious. They are extraordinarily well adapted. Their venom does exactly what evolution shaped it to do: punish contact decisively. The tragedy lies in overlap. Human activity intersecting with a defense system optimized for a different battlefield. In the Amazon, danger does not always strike from teeth or claws. Sometimes it waits, motionless, trusting the environment to do the rest. A single careless touch, no pressure, no aggression, no warning, can unravel the body's most basic protective system. Blood that should stay contained begins to escape. Organs that should function silently begin to fail. What started as a brush against bark turns into days in a hospital bed, transfusions dripping into veins, the unsettling sensation that the body itself has forgotten how to hold together. This is the quiet power of venomous caterpillars. They do not chase, they do not attack. They simply exist, armed with chemistry so precise that a moment of inattention can make the body feel as though it is bleeding from the inside out. In the Amazon, the most dangerous animals are often the ones you never see. Beneath the surface of slow rivers and flooded forests, Freshwater stingrays lie pressed into mud and sand, their outlines erased by silt and shadow. From above, the water looks calm, ankle-deep, knee-deep, safe enough to cross barefoot. Fishers wade, children play, hunters rinse gear. Every step presses flesh into a landscape designed to hide a weapon. Freshwater stingrays do not stalk or chase, they wait. Their bodies are flattened discs, perfectly shaped to disappear into river bottoms where fine sediment settles. Only the eyes and spiracles may remain exposed, drawing water for breathing while the rest of the animal becomes part of the substrate. This camouflage is not passive, it is defensive geometry. When a foot comes down on top of a ray, the animal reacts with a single explosive movement, its tail whipping upward with mechanical precision. The tail spine is not a needle, it is a serrated blade. Made of hard dentin and coated in venomous tissue, the barb is designed to tear, not puncture cleanly. As it strikes, it rips through skin, muscle, and connective tissue, carving a jagged channel rather than a neat wound. The serrations catch and shred as the tail withdraws, and in many cases the spine breaks, leaving fragments embedded deep in flesh. Venom is delivered directly into the torn tissue, not injected cleanly, but smeared along the wound, saturating damaged cells. Pain is immediate and overwhelming. Victims describe it as electric, crushing, and consuming. Pain that eclipses everything else, forcing screams, collapse, or panic. Swelling follows within minutes as venom compounds trigger intense inflammation and blood vessel leakage. The affected limb becomes tight, hot, and distorted, skin stretched to its limits. Movement becomes impossible. But the agony, as severe as it is only the opening phase. The real danger begins once the wound is made. River water in the Amazon is not clean in a clinical sense. It is rich with bacteria adapted to warm, oxygen-poor environments, organisms that thrive in mud, decaying vegetation, and animal waste. When a stingray barb opens a deep channel through tissue, it carries this microbial soup directly into spaces the immune system struggles to defend. At the same time, the venom itself compromises local blood flow, damaging cells and creating pockets of low oxygen where bacteria flourish. Fragments of the spine complicate matters further. Because the barb is brittle and serrated, pieces often remain lodged in muscle or near bone, acting as foreign bodies that fuel chronic infection. Unless removed surgically, and removal is often difficult due to swelling and tissue destruction, these fragments become anchors for ongoing inflammation and bacterial growth. Antibiotics alone are rarely sufficient. In the days following a sting, what begins as swelling can evolve into something far worse. Wounds fail to close, edges darken, skin breaks down. Ulcers form, oozing fluid and emitting the unmistakable smell of necrotic tissue. Pain shifts from acute to deep and throbbing, constant rather than explosive. Fever may develop as infection spreads beyond the wound site. Hospitals in riverine regions see these cases repeatedly. Feet and ankles are the most common sites, followed by lower legs, exactly the body parts needed for walking, working, and survival. Surgeons are often forced to cut aggressively, removing dead tissue to prevent infection from spreading upward. This debridement can expose tendons and bone, turning a single step into months of wound care. In severe cases, necrosis advances despite treatment. Blood supply collapses in damaged tissue. Infection tracks along fascial planes. When the body cannot contain the spread, amputation becomes the only option. Toes are removed, parts of the foot are taken, sometimes more. These are not rare anecdotes, but documented outcomes in regions where people live and work barefoot in ray-inhabited waters. Even when limbs are saved, recovery is long and incomplete. Stingray wounds heal slowly, especially in the humid tropics where reinfection is a constant threat. Scar tissue replaces muscle and skin that once absorbed shock and allowed flexible movement. Ankles stiffen, balance changes. Chronic pain persists, flaring with activity or weather. Walking becomes cautious and deliberate, every step a reminder of the injury. For people whose livelihoods depend on mobility, fishers, farmers, loggers, this loss is devastating. Months without work can mean loss of income, food insecurity, and cascading hardship. Some never return to their previous level of function. The stingray is not fatal in most cases, but it leaves behind altered lives. From an ecological perspective, the stingray's weapon is purely defensive. Freshwater rays feed on mollusks, crustaceans, and small fish, using specialized teeth to crush shells. They are not aggressive toward humans. Their barb exists because they are vulnerable, slow to flee, exposed from above, hunted by large predators. The strike is a last resort, triggered only when escape is impossible. But the mismatch between human behavior and ray ecology is profound. Humans wade blindly through habitats where rays are common. Feet replace eyes. The very adaptations that let rays survive, camouflage, bottom-dwelling stillness, make them invisible until contact is unavoidable. In some communities, people shuffle their feet when walking in shallow water, a learned behavior meant to warn rays and give them time to flee. This adaptation speaks volumes. It is an acknowledgement that survival depends not on eliminating danger, but on understanding it. When that understanding fails, or when children play, tourists wander, or fatigue sets in, the cost can be permanent. What distinguishes stingray injuries from many other encounters in the wild is their timeline. The moment of contact is brief. The ray is gone instantly, vanishing back into silt. There is no pursuit, no continued threat. Yet the consequences stretch forward. Days of pain, weeks of infection risk, months of impaired mobility, years of altered movement patterns. The injury does not end when the venom dissipates. It evolves. These are not dramatic deaths. They are slow transformations. A person survives, but the future narrows. Routes become harder to travel. Tasks take longer. Work changes or stops entirely. Infections recur. Scars tighten. The memory of a single misplaced step follows every movement that comes after. In the Amazon, stingrays embody a particular kind of danger. The kind that does not kill you outright, but reshapes what your body can do. They are not predators of humans. They are gatekeepers of the river bottom, armed with a defense so effective that surviving it often means living differently forever. This is why stingray injuries are remembered not as attacks, but as turning points. You lived. But something essential was taken. Mobility, strength, confidence in the ground beneath your feet. It is not the wound that defines the encounter. It is the long recovery, the lost months, the altered future. A single step into shallow water, and life divides cleanly into before and after. In the Amazon, wounds rarely stay clean. Water that looks dark and still at the surface is alive beneath, loaded with bacteria, fungi, parasites, and decomposing organic matter constantly recycled by heat and flow. Every cut, scrape, or puncture in this environment becomes an ecological interface, a place where human tissue meets a microbial world evolved to break things down. When that interface is opened not by a thorn or knife, but by the teeth of predators designed to tear flesh efficiently, healing becomes uncertain long before survival is assured. Piranhas and caimans occupy very different positions in the river's food web, but they converge on the same outcome for human bodies: open wounds that refuse to resolve cleanly. One specializes in precision cutting, the other in brute force. Both deliver injuries that expose deep tissue, crush structure, and seed infection in ways that linger far beyond the moment of attack. Piranhas are often misunderstood as mindless swarmers, but their danger lies in something more specific. Their teeth are razor-sharp, triangular blades arranged in a single interlocking row. When a piranha bites, it does not clamp and hold, it shears. Flesh is sliced cleanly, sometimes to bone, in a motion so fast it barely registers until blood clouds the water. These bites are often defensive or opportunistic, feet splashing near spawning grounds, hands entering the water to free nets, bodies weakened by exhaustion or injury. The fish does not need to kill, it only needs to remove tissue. The resulting wound is deceptively neat. Edges can appear sharply cut, almost surgical, but the depth is often underestimated, and the contamination is immediate. River water rushes into the open tissue, carrying bacteria adapted to survive on decaying plants, dead fish, and animal waste. Unlike a knife wound made in controlled conditions, a piranha bite is instantly soaked in microbes, many of which thrive in low-oxygen environments deep in muscle. Caimans, by contrast, leave nothing neat behind. Their jaws close with crushing force, powered by muscles evolved to subdue struggling prey. Teeth puncture, tear and shatter, often driving fragments of bone inward. Even a brief grip can leave skin avulsed, muscle pulped, and joints destabilized. In many non-fatal encounters, the animal releases quickly, defensive strikes near nests, territorial lunges in shallow water, mistaken identity at river edges. The person escapes, the limb remains attached, but what is left behind is catastrophic tissue damage. Caiman teeth are not clean instruments. They are coated with biofilms from feeding on carrion, fish, and mammals. When they penetrate flesh, they inject this microbial community deep into tissue planes already compromised by crushing trauma. Blood supply is disrupted, swelling cuts off oxygen, dead space forms where tissue has been destroyed. These are ideal conditions for infection. In both cases, the initial danger is obvious: blood loss, shock, pain. What follows is quieter and more destructive. Wounds swell and stiffen, edges darken, drainage becomes cloudy, then foul-smelling. Fever develops. Antibiotics help, but penetration into poorly perfused tissue is limited. Surgeons clean what they can see, but bacteria persist in microscopic pockets. Healing stalls, repeated surgeries are common. Tissue that appeared viable one week becomes necrotic the next. Skin grafts fail because underlying muscle cannot support them. Scars thicken and contract, tethering joints and limiting range of motion. Tendons damaged by teeth or infection lose glide, turning fluid movement into mechanical resistance. What was once a hand becomes a clawed grip. What was once a foot becomes a rigid platform that cannot adapt to uneven ground. Examples repeat across river communities. A fisher, bitten by a piranha while freeing a net, survives with fingers intact, but months later cannot flex them fully. Infection damaged tendon sheaths, and scar tissue lock the joints. He cannot tie nets anymore. A farmer dragged briefly by a caiman escapes, but the crushing injury to his lower leg leads to chronic osteomyelitis, bone infection that flares repeatedly, requiring long courses of antibiotics and eventual partial bone removal. Walking becomes painful, then unreliable. Work slows, then stops. Children are not spared. Shallow water attacks during play leave wounds that heal crookedly as bodies grow around scar tissue. Limbs lengthen unevenly, muscle groups weaken. Disability is not always immediate, but it unfolds over years as altered biomechanics strain joints and spine. A single encounter reshapes development. From a biological perspective, these outcomes are predictable. Predators are not evolved to wound cleanly. Their weapons maximize damage and minimize escape. Teeth tear fibers apart rather than separating them cleanly. Crushing disrupts blood flow over wide areas. In wild prey, this leads to rapid death. In humans with access to medical care, it leads instead to survival with compromised tissue that struggles to regenerate fully under tropical conditions. The river environment compounds everything. Constant humidity softens skin and delays closure. Heat accelerates bacterial growth. Limited access to sterile care means wounds are often treated late or incompletely. Even when hospitals intervene, patients return to the same conditions that caused the injury, where keeping a wound clean is a daily challenge. Recovery is not linear. It advances, stalls, reverses. Ecologically, piranhas and caimans are not anomalies. They are integral components of river systems. Piranhas remove weak or injured fish, recycling protein efficiently and influencing population dynamics. Caimans regulate prey abundance and shape shoreline behavior of animals that drink or cross rivers. Their feeding strategies evolved long before humans entered these waters. The injuries humans sustain are not malice, but mismatch. Bodies unarmored, behaviors uninformed, assumptions misplaced. What makes these encounters particularly devastating is that they target the parts of the body humans rely on most for survival in the Amazon. Hands and feet. Fishing, farming, paddling, carrying, all depend on grip, balance, endurance. When scars restrict movement or pain, limits load-bearing, independence erodes. People become dependent on family or community. Roles change, status shifts. The injury ripples outward socially as well as physically. Psychological consequences follow. Fear of water develops in people whose lives revolve around rivers. Sleep is disturbed by chronic pain. Repeated medical setbacks foster resignation. Some stop seeking treatment altogether, accepting limited function as inevitable. Survival becomes adaptation, not recovery. In these stories, death is not the primary outcome. Survival is. But survival carries a cost that statistics rarely capture. Limbs remain, but they do not perform as before. Bodies heal, but incompletely. Futures narrow. This is the shared legacy of piranhas and caimans as open wound specialists. One cuts, the other crushes, but both leave injuries that are not finished when bleeding stops. They continue through infection, scarring, and loss of function, long after the water has closed over the scene of the attack. In the Amazon, the most enduring danger is not always the moment teeth meet flesh. It is what follows, the slow negotiation between damaged tissue and a hostile environment, the repeated attempts to heal that never quite succeed. People survive, but they carry the river with them afterward, etched into scar lines and stiff joints. Here, the true threat is not just dying in the attack. It is living afterward with a body that never fully recovers, one that remembers with every movement that survival and wholeness are not the same thing.